Shifters, welcome back to another episode of Post Show Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. I screwed up my own fucking intro there. What the hell's going on? This is a auspicious start to another episode. Hope you're enjoying the episodes lately. I've been really knuckling down and making sure that I get like a good, solid bank of really solid guests. I've got some nice diversity as well. The funniest thing is I've had a few people hit me up and they're like, "Oh, well, do you just talk about cocktails?" I'm like, "Have you ever listened to my episode? Like, my podcast rarely talks about cocktails. I don't think I've done cocktails maybe 5 to 8% of my total 450 episodes have actually talked about like geeking out about cocktails. We may geek out a little bit about today, but today I've got we're going to talk about social media and how to sort of build a brand on social media with Brenton Mowforth, who is the guy behind the camera when it comes to Cheers to Happy Hour. I followed Cheers to Happy Hour for a really long time, and then I think last year when I was in Toronto, we bumped into each other and he introduced himself. I'm like, oh, okay, now I can put the context all in. But we're going to be talking about social media, how to build your brand, and how to monetize it, especially in Canada, which is extremely difficult to do. Good morning, Brendan. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So let's kick it off. What's your origin story to get to the point that we're at right now?
It's funny you say the guy behind the camera because honestly, that's the best place for me. Like, being out in the open and like on podcasts is something so foreign to me, and yeah, it's like right behind the camera is where I'm the most comfy. Either that or editing. It's like a zen moment for me.
It's like dishwashing. Like dishwashing for me is you put your headphones in and you just wash dishes in the back. No one bothers you, and you've got a system in place. But I think as hospitality people, like I think there's always that dichotomy of faces where we're like, if some of us are massive introverts like myself, which is funny when I say that, people are like, no, you're not. I'm personally an introvert, but then like you jump behind the bar, you get put into a position, into a spot that you're comfortable with, and you just like click.
Yeah, and in the beginning, like it wasn't even supposed to be about me, like as a person. Like if you remember, like my very first profile picture, it was a picture of me and my wife Sarah sitting on a boat. Like half of the people that I would meet, there's been times where I would meet up with somebody to do like some sort of meeting at a bar, and they would expect Sarah to walk in, and then they see me walk in, they're like so confused. And, yeah, because like Cheers to Happy Hour, like the original idea was for it to be not about like one person, like I said, but also about the social atmosphere of drinking, literally the cheersing. Like, so having two people in the profile picture, I thought was such a good idea, but eventually it kind of gave way, and people wanted to. I guess social media kind of changed a little bit, where they wanted it to be more about a specific person, and there became a bigger demand for me to show myself and allow people to get to know me. And yeah, like I'm actually you might not notice this, like if you see me at the bar, because I've shaken it off a little bit, but naturally I'm very, very shy person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so this whole experience has kind of helped me shake that, and yeah, like that demand coming up for me being out in front of the camera has definitely put me on the spot.
So when did you start Cheers to Happy Hour, and what was the driving force behind it?
So in 2017, I just needed a drastic change in life. I wasn't fulfilled. And have you heard of he's an author / orator from the 50s and got really popular in the 70s. His name is Alan Watts. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So he's the guy in the 70s. He had some speech where he's like, money.
What do you want to do with your life? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Logic samples it. Logic samples it on one of his tracks.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, so the question, like, if money doesn't exist, if money and currency cease to exist, like what would you do to live a happy life? And then he goes on to say, turn that into a living, find out what that is and turn that into a living. But basically find something you do for free and then, do that for a living. And I was doing that for 10 years in, production. I moved to the city, Toronto, in 2009 to pursue being a fashion photographer. And then I got into doing videos and ads for like just, one-off videos for like Kia. I ran a production company for a little bit. Kia was one of our clients. I used to do some crazy work for the city of Toronto. Like Toronto, as a client, they were always the ones to call me up and say, we have a crazy deadline. We need this thing to be done yesterday. And but the thing is, like, so I'm pursuing this whole thing. Like I would, if money wasn't a thing, like I would be doing this. Like this is what I would be doing for fun. What the problem was, one of the issues was, as soon as one contract was done, I would be doing another contract in a completely different industry. And I found myself spending too much time doing sales. And I didn't really want to do sales. I just wanted to do the creative and the fun stuff. And so eventually I got with an agency, like an ad agency. And honestly, that was even worse. So I left. So I left there, and I'm like, and this is 2017. I'm trying to figure out, I'm pursuing this thing that I thought would be fulfilling, and it's not. I'm trying to figure out why. And then it just dawned on me, not what Alan Watts said, like, find something you do for free. That's good advice for the 70s, but not in this economy. So, so I'm going to take things a step further. Not what I would do for free, but what am I spending all my money on? And I'm going to pursue that as a career. And I looked at my credit card bill, and I'm like, wow, I got a real knack for the hospitality and liquor industry. So
research.
Yeah. And so that's how I started the Instagram account. That's how I started Cheers to Happy Hour, because I was a complete newbie. I had zero connections. I didn't know anybody in the industry. So I started the Instagram account because I figured, I would just take pictures of classic cocktails and publish them. Well, actually, at first, like, it was just the drinking community in general. So I'd be posting beer, I'd be posting wine, spirits, cocktails. But then I realized that the beer community would be cannibalizing the spirits community. Even though there's a lot of beer drinkers who like spirits and like drinking wine, when it comes to online behavior, they cannibalize each other. And if I were to post some beer, the wine lovers would fall off, and the spirit lovers, and then I would post spirits and cocktails, and the wine and the beer lovers would start to drop off. So at that point, especially, it's kind of changed a little bit now, but at that point, especially, I really needed to pick a niche.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized there was more creative opportunity in spirits and cocktails. And I also saw this as a growing community, and I really was, I feel like my passion was like pushing me in that direction. And I had just enough money at that point where I could live like a really uncomfortable life for about a year. And I told myself that I would make something of this after, and I'll give myself a year to make something of it. And during that year, I have no intention of making any money. It's all just hustle and grind, try to make something of this. And a year and a month, like I hit that 10,000 follower mark. And this is when I really thought of it as a possibility as an actual business, because that's when you could start selling ad space. And I did some of that. And actually, let's take it back a step, because like I said, I took a year to make zero money. So I'm using everything we have at our home bar. And eventually I'm like, shit, we're going to go broke. Like, we're going to lose, like, I'm going to have to replace all this stuff. Like, how am I going to do that without just absolutely going broke? So eventually I started reaching out to bars, and I would say to them, if you could make me your 3 favorite cocktails, in exchange for the photos. So make me 3 of your favorite cocktails before hours, before a shift. And I'll give you some gas. Like I'll put you online and I'll give you the photos. You can use it how you like. You have all the rights to it. And at first, absolutely nobody was interested. I heard nothing but crickets.
Wow.
And honestly, it makes sense because it's like I'm just some random guy coming out of the blue. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody had any reason to think that like I would be willing to provide the value that I was offering. So, but then eventually, um, Emily and Josh LeBlanc, who were running Mahjong Bar at the time,
Mhm.
uh, they got back to me and said, "Yeah, sure, come in, let's do some stuff." And this is when they had on their menu the Peach Panther and Hard Feelings, and they were my first collab. That was my first ever bar collab, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget them for that. And through that, I was introduced to a guy named Michael Mooney, who I'm sure you know, and he somehow saw value in what I was doing. So he introduced me to some people, and it kind of snowballed from there. And I feel like anybody who wants to do what I've been doing, like the word to remember, like authentic, like I find a lot of these seminars leading up to today, they would ask people to say, what is the one word to, to describe successful social media? And they
Mm.
always say authenticity. And that's true. Authenticity is very valuable, but like the very core of what influence is ubiquity. And at first, when I started doing projects with bars, collabs, I hustled my ass off so much. I was doing like 3 or 4 shoots per week, and I was publishing 6 to 7 posts per week. But this was back when it was photos, so it was a little bit easier. But and it was all getting reshared, and eventually, people are like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
So
And
with that being, you said like social content is like pretty performative, and you sort of start getting that traction. Has your intention in what you wanted for this brand that you've sort of built changed from those days to now?
I feel like it hasn't changed, but it has evolved. Um, in those days, I don't know if it was the same. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was the same for out in Vancouver or BC. Um, it was definitely not the case in the States, but in Toronto, there was a lot of foodie culture, like Toronto publications, and cocktails scene was always seemed kind of like a sideline, like
Mm.
something that to go along with the food, and everybody was just publishing about food. And I wanted to remedy that. I wanted to create something that was just so determined to be all about the cocktails, and then have the food be the sideline. um, but like I said, also the social atmosphere, I wanted to really celebrate that, because at that time, and also now, it might have slowed down a bit because of pandemic. But you go to a bar and you have a group of like 5 friends. Each of them get a different cocktail, and they're all switching cocktails. And oh, you want to try mine? Oh, let me try yours, kind of thing. And I feel like that sort of thing really, I really like that community. I really like that about the culture, and I really wanted to celebrate that. So that's still intact. The only thing that really changed is that originally I didn't really want to be known. I didn't want people to really know my name. I wanted them to know Cheers to Happy Hour, and that's why the profile picture was just me and Sarah. So that has changed. I'm less shy, so now I'm more willing. I'm more willing to get it, on podcast. Actually, this is my first time really doing something like this, and
Well, thank you.
yeah, man.
So you were mentioning like you did a year. You said a year and 1 month was the point where you hit 10 grand, 10,000 followers, and that's when you're sort of like looking at it. Was that the tipping point from okay, I can actually like move this forward, and this can be something that I can actually like make a career out of?
Yeah, yeah. That's when I realized that I could actually, yeah, do something. Yeah, do something with this. And yeah, it really did take a lot of twists and turns, just because like, you know, socioeconomics and stuff like that. Like when I started making money, like there was some ad spends, there was some marketing dollars, but I would also, like at that point, like I was doing so much content that, you know, and people kept seeing me so often that they were willing to, like if I say, hey, do you mind making me a cocktail with Hendrick's gin in it? You don't have to do anything with it. Like I'm gonna take a picture of it and publish it, and you know, and that's it. That's all I asked for, and like I was able to make, you know, a little bit of money there too. Um, but then like pandemic happened, and all that went away. So two weeks, you know, two week period of time, I was figuring out like shit. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board. What are we doing here? But then I realized like, you know, why does anything really have to change? And there's so many bartenders out of work, and like I know they're feeling the strain. So I figured like what I would do is I would just convince brands to hire these bartenders that are out of work, as many as I can, and they would make cocktail recipes, which they would email me, and then I would publish. I would make them myself at home and publish them. And that's when I was getting some bartenders paid. Like every brand that I brought on, we'd bring on 5 bartenders, and they'd all get paid for the recipe. And you know, we'd also, you know, talk about them, you know, give them some hope as well as some a little bit of folding cash. And then after the pandemic, it kind of, you know, I still do that, especially now that TikTok has changed everything, and that was a huge change. TikTok changed the whole world.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like I was comfortable publishing 6 to 7 photos a week, very comfortable, and I was growing fast, and I was doing a lot of things, getting a lot of recognition, and you know, having a lot of fun collaborating with all these bartenders. But then TikTok came up, and I'm like, fuck that. I don't need to switch to video. But I'm just gonna stay the course, do what I'm doing. And then one day I woke up and I was proficient at video. And the reason, like, in like the time period from me saying fuck that to me being proficient at it was a matter of 4 months.
Wow.
And I feel like what happened was I was put in a situation where my brain needed to, you know, just snap into gear. And honestly, like, you know, I've noticed over my lifetime that the situation where you're put over the coals and you need to perform or die, like when you have no choice but to figure shit out, those are the times where you start to think differently. You learn faster, you strategize better. So TikTok, you know, I'd say thank you, TikTok, for that.
Was that the catalyst that made you make the move to start doing a blend of pick and video? Was the TikTok? Because I was one of the early like pushers of TikTok in like 2021, I would say. And like one of my videos, my whole shtick was single take, 1 minute. That was when it was only a 1 minute video maximum.
Yeah.
Take one video, one shot, and if I didn't make the cocktail in 1 minute, I wouldn't edit anything. I was literally very, very rudimentary, nothing like what you do, but like it was something that was like it started like popping off hard. Like I think my lemon drop video of all cocktails got 1.9 million views in like 2 weeks. Like I was answering comments so quickly that TikTok blocked me a couple of times.
Oh, really?
Because they have like a well, they used to, they don't have anymore, but like you don't engage so much because they're worried about how much you use in the app, like for mental health and stuff. And so they'd block me for like 3 hours, and then I'd go log back in and be another 50,000 fucking comments. And so was that early days of TikTok, and has it still stuck for you? Has TikTok still performed the way it was when you first started it?
So I actually never really grew my TikTok. Like I threw some stuff up there, but it never really popped off. And I realized that my comment section was mainly youngsters that really didn't care about like cocktails. I know that for you folks who like blew up on there, like you've got a good community, but I just, you know, I just felt like my particular content wasn't really like TikTok really demands to do like someone to do what you did, where you get in front of the camera. And I remember that's, you know, that's when I remember following you back in those days. Like I loved your videos. But like the thing is, the reason why TikTok changed everything is because first of all, it happened during the pandemic when people had so much time on their hands. So there was a lot of people, like take a liquor rep for example, who their core business is normal liquor rep stuff, and then all of a sudden they can't go to the bars and they're sitting at home. So many of them grab the camera and grab the mic, and it changed their life. And you know, they learned video. But then also, you know, competing platforms like Instagram, they became TikTok. Like all of a sudden they, you know, Instagram didn't care about photos so much, and if you started posting reels, you'd blow up because they were so determined to crush TikTok. So this is what really kicked me in the gear. And so I never really made the move over to TikTok. But just, you know, switching mindsets, like it really is a mindset switch, because back in the early days, like when everything was calm and photo friendly, when I saw something that I wanted to create content, like if I'm out at the bar, if I saw a content opportunity, my first instinct would be to snap some photos. But now, like I've made a point of changing that, so that instead of having my instinct be like snap, it's like press the record button and create a video. And I had to make a conscious effort to do that, because for like 10 years I was just a photo guy, and now I'm a video guy.
So when we are talking about scaling and everything, have you always been a super organized person behind the scenes, or was that something because I think a lot of times people go, oh, content can be organic, and a lot of times you can get good organic content when you're like out at the bars, as you were saying, like dropping videos and stuff. Were you organized once you started scaling this, or did you have to like really like sit down and go, okay, I need a system for this, I need a plan to sort of like keep going forward at this speed?
No, I'm still very disorganized. Like what really made it easy for me is that I developed a shooting style that was more like really run and gun. Like when I'm shooting at my studio here, like the home bar, like if you ask anybody who has been over here shooting with me, it's very like, it's not structured, but I've done it long enough that I can edit the video in my head as we shoot, and I just know what angles that I want. And I just know when, you know, I've developed an ability to be reactive, and I feel like that is important. But also when I'm shooting at the bars, I need to be like a ninja. And people have commented on this saying, like, you know, a production comes in to shoot an ad for, you know, Toronto, like, you know, I'll just say Toronto Life or any publication, and there's a huge production. Like there's like a production team, there's equipment like lighting and stuff like that. I didn't want to do that because I knew that for it to be a big production like that, I have no ability to come in and out. I need to be able to get in there, get what I need, and I need to be able to do it on the fly. Like, you know, sometimes I arrange, we'll meet up at like 4:00 before the bar opens. Sometimes that'll happen, but for the most part, some of the most viral stuff that I published, I was just sitting at the bar and I saw something that that'll be interesting. And I need to be able to shoot that and light that without first blinding the bartender. And I don't want to impede their service at all. So for that reason, I need to get in and out. And sometimes I'll do a full production during service, and it does. And as far as I know. Like, let's hope it doesn't impede the service.
So let's talk about that for quickly, because like you said, like some of the things you've done, you didn't think about them going viral or gaining really good traction. And I've always lived by a thing that quality is subjective. I always find that like the things that really like resonate with a lot of people that follow me is like mistakes I've made or bloopers or stuff like that. And so like for me, I've had stuff that I've like really honed in on, polished and polished and polished and polished, and then it falls flat. And then there's something that I've gone, oh, super organic, like, oh, that's cool, let's do that, and it blows up. Have you had that as well? Have you found that as well, where it's like this mix of like, I don't sometimes know what my consumer wants to see?
Yeah, 110%. That is true. Like the bread and butter that I post, like the stuff where it's actually like a story, and we got some context in there, and we're showing off like a bartender's skills, something they're really passionate about. Like those videos, like sometimes it'll take me like 2 days to edit it. So that's like 3 days when you include shooting. Very, very polished. But the stuff that really pops off is, in a lot of cases, stuff that I didn't think that I wanted to publish it at all. And then at some point I'm like, oh, I haven't published in a while. Let's publish this garbage. and it blows up. Like there was one video where I was at Library Bar, and when I say garbage, I mean like just not polished.
Well, I gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm at Library Bar, and you know how they had the bird bath martini where they don't stir it, they just put the ice in there and they swirl it around, they pour it in. A beautiful, beautiful cocktail, absolutely amazing. But like the video, it just didn't seem like it would be like there was nothing to it. It was just a guy pouring a drink.
Yeah.
And that one blew right up. That one. Yeah, that was like.
I think that the big thing is why I always bring this up is that because I have so many young bartenders go, oh, I don't want to post because I can't do polished works, because it's always outside looking in. So they look at your work and go, okay, well, I could probably do that, but then you said 3 days to for shoot and edit. That's crazy. And so it almost stops them from posting at all instead of posting something, because they worry that it's going to get judged, and obviously judging is always the hardest thing, but like they're worried it's going to get judged, and they're like, well, it's not the quality I want. I'm like, quality is subjective. Something that you go, I don't like this is not my style, then all of a sudden someone goes, oh, that was cool, I just love that.
Yeah, actually, so maybe some of the best advice I could give to people starting out, take your favorite content creator, anybody, and scroll back to their first posts, because one of the biggest problems is that like if you try to get inspiration from somebody that's been doing it for years, you're trying to follow from where they are at now, whereas you should be following from where they were as they were blowing up or before they were blowing up, because the way, like, even if, like, not that I'm suggesting you look at my old stuff, because I would not suggest that one, but like if you were to scroll back to my first posts, it was absolute like garbage. Like it was really, really bad. And but what happens is, like, when you post things and it does really well, your brain is naturally going to be like, okay, how do we recreate this?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you post things that does really poorly, your brain's like, okay, how do we avoid like this failure? And if you do that a certain amount of times, eventually your brain's gonna be like, okay, don't do that. You create like do's and don'ts, and an intuition, and eventually you just kind of understand like what the audience actually wants, how to create that, and how to avoid boring them or making them not like it.
So how do you stay motivated? Like, as we're talking about like this sort of chipping away, I look at it as like a block of marble where it's like the things that work, you chip away that. You're going to do that a little bit more. Bad things that don't work, you chip away at that. So you end up with a very focused thing. How do you stay motivated and creative when it is technically your job? Yes, you're passionate. By the way, everybody should go and listen to that Alan Watts speech in total, because it's fucking epic.
Yeah.
But how do you stay motivated when it is your job and you are having to be creative constantly?
Well, I'd say there's two things. So the first thing that I don't deal with too much anymore, because I've kind of got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
When people say bad things about you online, when they get into your comment section, is fucking rip you apart. It hurts. It hurts a little bit at least. But instead of getting down on yourself and getting depressed and allowing that to affect you, like your movement, use that as an opportunity to learn. Because something I especially realized in the beginning, when I knew nothing, a troll that goes into your comment section and says, "Oh, you're doing this awfully. Like, you should do it this way."
Mm-hmm.
If you know nothing, like, there is still a little shred of value in that attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that person, sure, they're being mean. Sure, there's no reason for them to be that mean. But at the same time, like, this is their opinion. And even if you dislike somebody, like, their opinion is a drop in a bucket in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
So learn, like, use that, and you grow from it. And that helps you develop a bit of a bulletproof vest
Mm-hmm.
to it. But what keeps me motivated now is just, honestly, thank you, TikTok. Because, now that I'm doing videos, I could create stories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give too much away about stuff that isn't published yet, but me and a really popular, well-known bartender took a trip out to a farm to create B-roll for a video that we're putting together, and just the exploration of farm to glass and doing.
And he's really good at that too.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know what I'm talking about, eh?
Yeah.
I guess I'm not really good at being discreet, I guess.
Stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So that kind of stuff, I just love doing that. It's just fun.
But going back to your point about like trolls and stuff, like, I've always had a rule of and I've used it as content when people have come and trolled me, whether it be TikTok or Facebook or anything. Your page is your house, so they've come into your house to trash you. So that's the way I always take them. And I always have empathy for them, because they've spent the 2 minutes to absorb your content, bump your algorithm a little bit, and then also comment, which also bumps your algorithm a little bit. Yeah. Like, it's all positive for anyone who comments on your stuff, whether it's a negative comment or otherwise. But yeah, I treat trolls with a ton of empathy, but also, like, you've come into my house and you've kicked over my plant pot. Shit's gonna get real now.
Yeah. Oh, to that point, there was one video that I posted where the bartender's hand was a little bit too high on the glass when they put it down on the table. So the comment section was littered with thousands of people saying, "Nope, that's not." and because of that, it blew up. Like, the post blew up, and I got a huge amount of growth from that.
And meanwhile, they don't wash their hands before they cut up chicken at home. But at a restaurant, for fingers.
Yeah.
So for you over the next 12 months, what is your sort of like business model sort of looking like? Are we sticking with digital? Are we sort of branching into more like hybrid in-person sort of stuff? What's the next 12 months sort of look like from a business point of view for you?
I want to start pushing products. I want to, lack of a better word. Like, I'm developing bitters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm tinkering with a gin that's kind of going to be a novelty thing, but maybe it'll turn into something. But I definitely want to create some products just so that I could, diversify a little bit. I'm also, like, really focused on developing the ability to shoot and publish longer content, including more bartenders, bar folk, because I feel like that's really where, like, if I were to go back to like what I would do if money didn't exist, like that is what I would do. Like, go into farms, going and understanding the passion that goes into other people's work. I find that to be the most fulfilling thing that I've ever, aside from having our daughter Gemma, of course, I think that is the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done. And I want to do that. I want to do it in bigger ways. Maybe in the future, have it be a goal to do like a feature documentary. Yeah, and I feel like we're fighting a good fight when it comes to changing the culture of drinking, getting people to respect alcohol and respect the social environment, and not like, because I grew up in what I would say is like the dark ages of drinking, where like we would go to parties and do a handstand on a keg, or get a beer funnel, and like this is not like a way to live.
That's perfect. So with hospitality always being about the storytelling, how do you balance out what you put out, that the artistry and the creativity behind that, with also keeping that, as we've talked about, the algorithm stuff? How do you balance that out so that you sort of, are you thinking about the strategy when you post? Are you thinking about the algorithm? Or are you still focused so fully on the creative that you want to do and put out, and then see what sticks?
I know what people like, and I know, like, when I publish, like, my structure, like my formula, I guess, like the video starts with a finished product, the cocktail's finished, and then it usually cuts to the bartender at work, creating the cocktail, just doing their thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're in the home bar, and we're doing the nitty gritty, showing people the ins and outs of how to make this thing. That, I know that works. Whenever I publish something like that, people always enjoy it. There's a lot of times where I publish things that I would say is just for me, just something that I like and just wanted to get it out there and see how it does. Typically, it doesn't really perform that well, especially when it's compared to the stuff that does really well. I don't really think about the algorithm too much anymore. I just think about, honestly, the culture, because I just know what they want. And like, I follow a lot of great, like, Amore Drinks. I believe they're in France. I love their stuff. Schmuck, like Schmuck's, like, their content, like, I feel like right now we're in a time where, like, we grew up on cable TV, right? And all of a sudden, Netflix came out and all this on-demand stuff came out, and that, we love, not to say that that's bad or anything, because I love that stuff too, but people also do like programming. Like, people like it when they don't have to think about what they want to watch. It's just they tune in and there it is.
Yeah.
So cable TV is kind of, losing steam, but what's taking its place is social media. And it's so much, back in the day we'd have like 40 channels, but now we have like endless supply of, you follow what you like, you don't follow what you don't like, and if you lose interest in something, you just unfollow them. There's no fuss. So I kind of just think about it in that perspective instead of the algorithm. I think about what the culture is looking for, and if I post something they don't want, they're gonna tell me right away. Like, I'm gonna.
Yes. So I did like your piece of advice. Just for, I'm going to reiterate it. This one is the piece of advice you gave to anyone bartenders who are trying to do content creation, and go back to the early days of these content creators that you go are at, and see how it is, because I think that is the biggest hurdle. But for the last section of the podcast, I always do deep philosophical questions, and it very often screws people up, but I never send out my questions beforehand, because I like to see people's actual honest reactions to these. So, what is one lesson or experience that has shaped your perspective the most, and how do you carry that forward in your life?
Oh man.
And it was with anything. It's a life experience.
Yeah. So I I was never a really good student. I never, like, school to me was like, I was like allergic to it. And I, instead of going to school, I got a lot of my education from cold calling. This is back before Choose the Happy Hour, when I was trying to be a marketing advertising guru. I would cold call CMOs and CEOs of companies, and I would convince them to mentor me. I would say, give me 2 hours out of your month. Like, I'll come and see you like once or twice a month, and you just whip me into shape. We'll talk. And I've realized that a lot of them are actually pretty open to it, mainly because when you've achieved a certain amount of success, and they want to pay it forward, and they want to see that success come to fruition in others. So if you're wondering where to get any kind of information, if you're wondering how to hone your skills, sometimes just pick up a phone and ask.
That's a good one. If you could leave one lasting message or piece of wisdom for the world, what would it be and why?
Know what business you're in.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because, like, this actually goes back to one of the mentors that I went to see. Crayola is not in the business of making crayons or color on paper. Neither is Lego. Like, they're not in the business of, building blocks. Like, these companies are in the business of creativity. And giving the parents the ability to foster creativity in their children. And I'm not in the business of content. I'm not in the business of, creating videos, teaching people how to make cocktails. I'm in the business of culture. And everything that I do, I think about, the culture of it.
That's really fucking good. That's a great one.
Thank you.
Looking back on your journey, what is something you wish you had understood earlier in life?
Not to get with the agency, not to get a manager or an agent. I coming out of 2019, and 2020, like, I blew up like really hardcore in 2020, and because of that, an agent came and said, "Hey, do you want representation?" And I was in the midst of being like, "Oh, I'm doing really good. What is the natural next step? How do I scale this business?" And I thought that getting with an agency was the answer to that. And honestly, I feel like in social media, being in the wild, wild west, like, a lot of people think about the same thing. Like, if you're a bar owner and you're doing really well, and you're like, how do I market my business? Let's get a social media presence. In a lot of cases, they hire an agent or a social media agency, and they regret it. A lot of the times they regret it. There's some really good ones out there, but they're hard to find. And usually it comes down to somebody that they already know. They're like, hey, you want to come on in a higher capacity? But in a lot of cases, they hire an agency outright. They don't know them. They build a relationship, and then they realize that they're getting fleeced and it's not going anywhere. I had a situation where I had a ton of momentum coming out, 2020. Getting with the agency absolutely killed that. And I had to spend a good 7 months trying to build that after the relationship ended.
Oof. That's rough. Yeah, I see the PR agency thing a lot when it comes to bars, and for me, any it is advertising and marketing. So for me, it's always a 5x return. So like, if you're spending 10 grand a month on PR and marketing, you sure as hell be moving back 50, 65, $70,000 a month in top line revenue to make that work.
Yeah.
And very rarely it does. How do you define success, and has your definition of it changed over time?
Actually, recently, I would say it changed, because I used to always you know, success was always like freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having the like enough money to do the things that you want to do in life, and that, you know, I would still say that that is a big part of success. But after we had Gemma, it kind of, you know, kind of honed in what that meant. Like before Gemma, like I would want to get like awards. I would want to get like all the recognition, but after, you know, having a kid kind of really puts things into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just want to be comfortable. I want to have a comfortable life. You know, be able to go on vacations here and there. Just have the ability to, like, you know, a successful weekend for me now is we'll go to the music garden and have some beers.
Yeah.
Like, yes, and that, you know, I feel like you know, having a kid really put that into perspective.
What do you hope your legacy will be, and what steps are you taking to build it?
I want people to you know, stop drinking shitty booze. Like I want people to drink stuff that they want to taste the alcohol. I want them to, instead of doing, you know, like a beer funnel, like I want them to get a good beer and like sit down and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, take into consideration their health and the environment that they create around them when they drink. Because, you know, sometimes when it, you know, there's some abuse in there, sometimes it, you know, it affects others. And I just want to create an environment where people like enjoy just the peace, you know, of being able to enjoy something that's been crafted for them.
Yeah, I think for that one, I usually don't inject on these ones, but I think for that one, it's kind of funny because we are in this sort of niche of cocktails and drinking good whiskey, and we go to these places and these festivals and stuff, and we all collaborate together. But then, if you really, like I've always say, when bartenders get a little bit too high on their horse, I'm like, go to your local liquor store, not a fancy one, just your local liquor store, and watch what people buy.
Yeah.
And just stand there for an hour, hang out for like half hour, 45 minutes. It's creepy, I know, but like just watch what people buy. And when I do that, I'm like, nothing I've done in the last 15 years in Victoria here, especially, has really moved the needle that much. I've got more people drinking better. And then, of course, when you look at social media, you look at, was it Tipsy Bartender? I'm like, you really want to realize just how far we've got to go.
Yeah.
You go to like really good, like your platform and your social your profile, and you're like, okay, this is the way I like to drink. But then you go to Tipsy Bartender, and he's got like 4.1 million followers, and people are drinking like Juby babies out of like freaking Sprite and that sort of. And you're like, oh, people still drink like that.
Yeah, and then they get a bit older, and the sugar really starts to affect them, and they say, "Oh, I can't drink cocktails because they're too sweet."
Yeah.
And the same with rosé. Like rosé, I feel like as a category, rosé really got hurt because people, you know, they drink really sweet rosé, and there's some really great rosés out there.
Some great ones. But very last question: what's your favorite classic cocktail when you go out?
Last word. I know this is very polarizing, but last word, and in particularly the one that they make at Bar Pompette, which they changed the specs quite a bit. But any last word, honestly, it's for me like it's hard to make me a last word that I don't like.
Nice. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everything. Like it was great. I'm glad you reached out and said, "Hey, I want to be on the podcast. Would you be up for that?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, man.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being my first.
There was there's a lot of great information on that in this episode, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to leave you to your day. I'll chat to you very soon, my friend.
Sounds good.
Thank you.